You're listening to The Dealmaker's Edge with AY Strauss, diving deep into stories behind commercial real estate leaders. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Dealmaker's Edge. Today, we're very excited to be joined by Carlos Rodriguez Sr., the founder, chairman, and CEO of Driftwood Capital. Carlos oversees Driftwood's activities and growth in managing over $3 billion in assets, which include 15,000 keys across 80 hotels. Previously, he was the founder, chairman, and CEO of Cardell Hotels, which merged with Driftwood Hospitality Management in 2003. Carlos has been in the hospitality industry for over 35 years, during which time he's acquired, operated, developed, and made loans to hotels and their operators throughout the U.S. He's the recipient of many awards, including the 2020 Hilton Lifetime Achievement Award. And Carlos, we're really, really happy you took the time today to join us from your busy schedule on the Dealmaker's Edge. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
So, as I mentioned before, our target audience are people who are starting to come up in the real estate business. And you're winning Lifetime Achievement Awards. So our goal is to really try to go back to the original makings of a beautiful career and everything you've done and try to get your story out to share with others. So maybe we'll go to the early years. I mean, you went to great schools. Maybe we'll talk about how you grew up and where you started to go to school.
Sure. I was born and raised in Costa Rica. My mom was American, so I was dual citizen from day one. I went to Vanderbilt University for my undergrad, and then I went and got my MBA at Duke University at Focus School of Business. From there, I graduated and I went to work in investment banking in New York in a company that doesn't exist anymore called Thompson McKinnon Securities. At the time, it was one of the 8 largest, but unfortunately went under in the 87 crash. But anyway, I was working in investment banking my early years in New York City. And unfortunately, family tragedy is what got me into the hotel business. My brother died. So my dad asked me if I could come and help him. And my dad had just opened one hotel and it was in trouble. And so how do you say no to your dad when you have that sort of tragedy? So I resigned from what was at the time my dream job. I went to help the family in Costa Rica. So I moved with my wife to Costa Rica and took over the one hotel at that time that was my dad's. And quite frankly, we fixed it up in record time. It was intervened by the bank at that time and we fixed it up. And so it grew on me about being in the hotel business. I really enjoyed it. Even though it was time of turmoil, it was a family tragedy, I enjoyed the work that I did. So we started growing and we bought a second hotel with my dad in Costa Rica. And unfortunately then my dad decided to slow down. He decided that he wanted to take it easier. And in order not to compete with him and the family, I decided to leave and move back to Miami with my wife. And we basically started from scratch. I had little money. So we basically started raising money for my first hotel, which was a Holiday Inn by the airport in Miami. Honestly, it was tough, very tough. I still remember when I would raise $25,000 in one day, I would be very happy. I would celebrate. In total capital that I raised at that time was $2.6 million. I still remember the figure. And we did that first hotel and we raised it from friends and family. I mean, basically people that had seen what I had done for my dad and for the family basically decided to join me. And I did my first hotel and that was my first hotel. And then I did a second hotel and a third hotel. And in a period of like 6-7 years, I did 7 hotels like that from scratch development, but it was tough. It was, again, those times were tough, starting from scratch a business in a country that, I had worked in investment banking, but in Miami, it was new to me. The market was new. So, getting started was very difficult. I mean, I definitely made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I learned a lot along the way. I mean, when you're getting started and, you're building from scratch, there's a lot to be learned. So we did that. And thank God it went very well. I still remember to this day, I was down to my last $500 when I first opened my first hotel. And I couldn't sleep at night because, I had my kids in private school. I had to pay their bills. And I was down to $500 in the bank account when I got my first check from that first hotel that I opened. And I can't tell you how happy I was. I still remember it. It was $10,000 that I got from that first check. And then, again, it was successful, very successful. Actually, that hotel opened up to being full from day one, and I never looked back from there. But then we built about 7 hotels, and they all did very well here in Florida. Initially, my plan was, when I was doing the first 3 or 4 hotels, was that I was focusing on Latin America, funny enough. Basically, my plan was I was going to build hotels around the airport in Miami to showcase them to rich Latin Americans, for them to basically hire me to build and develop hotels for them in Latin America. Along the way, while building those 4 hotels that I wanted to do as my showpieces, I realized that it was a hell of a lot easier to make money in the US. It was easier for me to raise money. It was easier for me to borrow money under better terms, and the markets were more liquid. So I changed my game plan. My initial game plan was to develop these 4, to use them as models for Latin America. And then I switched and I said, nah, I'm staying here in the United States. This is a lot easier than I was originally planning. So that's how I started. And I never looked back. I mean, then I merged with one of the companies of Lehman Brothers. And I merged my company with the Driftwood Hospitality Management, which was at one of the platforms of Lehman Brothers. And, never looked back from there.
Amazing.
But years were tough.
I'm sure. And you've been through some more tough years through that as well, like we've talked about. But the fact is, turning a tragedy into an opportunity, showing the resilience, regaming or pivoting along your business plan, and having the fortitude sort of stare down that barrel of fear when you're down to the last $500. And that's definitely something to be admired. And I think it will really resonate with our listeners who are, up and coming and really trying to develop themselves. That's an amazing sort of background and framework. And maybe we'll talk now about that run when you joined, being backed by Lehman and obviously GFC and all that.
Sure. Basically, again, I merged from with Lehman out of necessity in a way, because what happened was I had been approached. I had success in developing 7 hotels, and I had a pretty interesting story to tell. And a small investment banking firm from New York approached me and said, "We like your story. We like what you're doing. We would consider taking you public." And quite frankly, for a person like me that was starting, I mean, I did have 7 hotels by the time, but one of my limiting factors all the time was when I went to people, and said, "I need money to raise for this hotel that I'm building," they would always limit it to how much I was investing. Well, when you're new and you're starting, there's only so much you can put. And so I had indebted myself in order to be able to put the money that I have to put in the deals. So it was tough because, raising money, as I said, in my first few years, when I raised $50,000, $25,000 from somebody, I would celebrate. Nowadays, I raise, $5, $10, $15 million in a week. It's a whole different story. But back then it was tough. So them telling me that they could take me public was a solution to my issue of having to me personally write checks all the time, and how I could do it in order to continue to fuel the growth. So Lehman merging in my management company, them offering me to go public provided that capital. So unfortunately, my timing couldn't have been worse. I finished getting ready for going public on September 1st, 2001. The roadshow was going to start later that month. And unfortunately, the tragedy of 9/11 happened, and my roadshow got canceled. My going public got canceled. So I had spent my last dollars again in trying to go public, which anybody that's gone public knows is very expensive. So I had spent a lot of money and time and resources on this. I was left kind of strapped. So the good news was, at that time, I met David Buttermeyer, my partner, that was a partner with Lehman's in Driftwood Hospitality Management. And Lehman approached me and offered to merge. And, it was perfect. It was a marriage made in heaven. And it resolved all my problems. Because one, I had Lehman's balance sheet, which was huge. And then on the other side, we complemented each other very well. David came from a background of acquiring hotels, strong in management company. He had been the chairman and CEO of a very large hotel company, publicly listed in the New York Stock Exchange. So he loved to do operations, but he hated the deal making side, and he didn't have any development experience. Meanwhile, I had a ton of development experience, and I love deal making from my investment banking side, which I love. I love dealing with bankers. I love dealing with investors. I love putting the deals together. And David, who had also a very strong background, from the public markets, David really loved operations. That was his thing. So the merger was perfect for us because basically we merged two things. He took care of operations. I took care of the deal making, and we had Lehman backing us. So when we merged back in 2003, it took me about a year and a half to negotiate with them. Lehman were tough negotiators. So when we merged in 2003, after what happened in 2001, we started growing like wildfire. I mean, we had all the money in the world. Lehman would back us and would grow. So we grew tremendously through hospitality management through Lehman's bankruptcy. Then we had, unfortunately, Lehman's bankruptcy. And quite frankly, I don't wish that on anybody. It was 2 years from hell, but we got ourselves out. We negotiated with the lawyers of the estate and we bought our company. We came out a lot smaller than we were because we had to pay them with hotels and so on, but we came out a lot smaller, but we learned a lot in the process. One of the things I learned is never again to depend on one source of capital. So I said to David, I love Wall Street. They certainly can provide a lot of capital for you, but I don't want to depend ever again on one source of capital or on Wall Street itself. So we opened the doors and we reinvented ourselves. And I went back to my roots. I went back to doing friends and family and raising money from friends and family. And the guys from Lehman found all their jobs and they called us and said, what you used to do for Lehman, do it for us. Let's do it together. And we did it. And today we have the best of all worlds. We have on one side, great relationship with several groups in Wall Street that we really have close ties with and that we continue to do deals with. But we also have grown our grassroots, our retail, our friends and family network. So it's been a little by little, it's been growing, and today is blossomed. I mean, we have over 1,600 and high net worth individuals investing with us. We have several billionaires investing with us, and we have Wall Street investing with us. So it's the best of all worlds. But it's been an interesting ride. It's been a roller coaster. And, what I would tell people is, if I look back, is always do your due diligence on the deals, because that's, you need to take care of the deal itself. You need to make sure that you're investing in the right thing. And it's mainly succeed has been is that we really do our due diligence in all our deals. We, try to structure the deals the right way with the right capital stack and the right loan terms. And I have my firm believer that you make your money when you buy. I mean, if you buy something very expensive, it can be a great location, but if you overpay, you're never going to get a great return. Meanwhile, if you buy at the right price, quite frankly, you can make some mistakes along the way and still make money. So, I'm a firm believer that you make money when you buy, so you need to buy at the right terms. And what I will tell you is, if you're in your own business, you have to have the stomach for the risks, especially if you're developing, because it has been a roller coaster. I've had 9/11, I've had the Lehman bankruptcy, I've had the pandemic. So all the route, I mean, it's been fun, but there has been also a lot of stress and a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah. And I hear the roller coaster, and we've spent time talking about the pandemic. That may have been of the darkest days, and we don't have to get too much into that. But on those darkest days, maybe someone listening to this is in the beginning part of their development of an organization, of a business. What do you tell yourself? How do you get through those darkest times? I mean, some of those crises you went through, you really couldn't see around the corner beyond the next day or week, certainly not years. So how did you navigate when you were not sleeping at night during those toughest times? What were the types of things you tell yourself as an entrepreneur?
You know, I would say to people, um, the following. First, never give up. Staying power. Staying power is crucial. I mean, I've seen people that give up on great projects, great pieces of land, and they give them up. And then a few years later, they're worth 10 times what they sold. So staying power is extremely important. So you need to really structure the deals the right way. If you're over levered and you don't have the capacity to sustain the deal, then you need to think it twice, because you need to be able, one of the things that I've been able to do is have that staying power and not giving up. I mean, you need to sometimes with your fingernails stick to it, so that's, I would say to you, is very important. But relationships, communication. I mean, relationships with your bankers is something, very, very important. I always tell everybody, I tell my son, I tell everybody that works with me, you need to have a really good relationship with all your bankers. You need to know them and you need to talk to them on a frequent basis. You need to communicate with them. You need to tell them when things are wrong, be upfront about it and work it out. Give them solutions, because there's nothing worse. The banker doesn't want to take your keys. In my case, they don't want to take the property. They lose money if they do that. They have issues. They want to help you out. So be in contact. Don't be antagonistic and negotiate with them. Talk to them, be upfront. In the pandemic, let me tell you, I've never worked harder. I mean, my team never worked harder. I can tell you, we redrew and made plans and projections pretty much on a daily basis. We were working night and day during the pandemic, trying to resolve the issues. But that's what it takes. You need to, again, stay in power. Don't give up. Fight it. Communication, trust is important. With my investors, that's the one thing I pride myself. You ask me a question, we will answer it to you within 24 hours. 20 investors that we have over 1,600 investors, and we have a team dedicated to responding to them. And they can all tell me, they have direct access to me, and I'm upfront. If it's a bad news, I give them the bad news upfront. But what we're working on as a solution to that bad news, not everything you do is going to be working on. I mean, I've had some deals that are not as good, and then I've had some amazing home runs, and I tell people, diversify, take a piece of everything, because not everything is going to be, a home run. Is going to be, some are going to be third base hits, some are first base, and some are strikeouts. So the point is, communicate, create that trust with your investors, create that trust with the banker, and structure things the right way, with the right capital stack, with the right loan terms. Don't give up, fight it.
Well said. Very, very inspirational, Carlos. Extremely inspirational. And the last thing you said is a great segue to my next question, which is know your banker, know your lender, build that relationship and diversify. You have diversified beyond just buying more hotels and building the management company, et cetera. You've actually gotten to the lending space itself, which is, I guess, more and more common more recently, as people are not necessarily buying on the equity. They're really looking to make loans. But tell me when and how you got into that space and how that's been accretive to your overall strategy of growth.
Yeah. I'm going to answer the long way start for that. Little by little, we've been growing the company to be fully vertically integrated and to be in all aspects of the hotel business. So we started with a management company, then we started acquisitions, then we started development, and the latest is lending. And the nice thing about having that is you have an amazing database of information that you can use for all pieces of the business. So that's one. Two, it gives them great relationships with the lenders, because we're now working side by side with them, because we're the men's lender. Now the seniors working with us, it creates great relationships. So the lending was a natural progression to what we were doing. I mean, we wanted to be an all solutions for hotels. And then they provided, that was the last piece that needed to be added to the company. And quite frankly, it was a great opportunity. I mean, we know all about hotels. the senior lenders trust us. And basically, they provide us actually most of our deals. Senior lenders come to us and they say, hey, this borrower needs a bridge. They have a gap in the capital stack. They need a loan. And the lender loves us because the senior lender, the senior banker loves us because basically we're sort of like an insurance policy. If the borrower defaults for whatever reason, they know that we will cure and take over. That's not the intent. We want to work with the borrower. We want to help the borrower. But if for some reason the borrower gives up, then the senior lender is more secure. So it's been also a great opportunity. We've done, my God, I've loaned to maybe 60 hotels in the last 6 months. Right now, as a result of the pandemic, a lot of hotels have needs and the capital markets are in turmoil. A lot of senior lenders are pulling back. A lot of, so it's been a great opportunity for us to step in and help people in need with these loans. But it was a natural progression. I mean, we know everything about hotels, so why not lend to hotels? So it was just a natural progression for us to follow. And we're continuing to grow. We're continuing to add more divisions. We're looking at other opportunities right now because we're thinking, okay, we know about hotels, but we now can add other aspects of the real estate world to our company.
Fantastic. So somebody starting today, doesn't even have to be in hotels, but commercial real estate generally. Obviously, you can't predict markets. You've been through a lot, but I mean, I guess what are the key lessons you're telling somebody just getting started today? Maybe someone listening to this is transitioning. They're trying to break into the sponsorship. Who knows? There's some layoffs going on. Maybe somebody's reimagining their career. So there's early lessons you'd impart to somebody who's just starting out in this environment we're finding ourselves. I'm curious, someone gets you for a cup of coffee on your calendar. What are the types of things you're saying beyond just informative around this amazing story of yours?
Well, I would tell them the easiest way to start raising money for a deal is usually with your friends and family. And if you put money yourself, they know that you have skin in the game. So you need to be prepared to have skin in the game. And I would frankly, start with friends and family. How I started. That's how I started. And it is tougher today in the sense of if you want to develop, because getting entitlements, getting work permits is getting more complicated every day. So you need to make sure, like again, and I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but developing a business plan, think it through and think through all the pitfalls that you could have and put it in writing. And then once you do that, then, try to arrange the right capital stack. Don't over leverage yourself. Find a good banker, that will lend you the money. That's the beauty of the United States. I mean, I love this country because here you can find not just a ton of banks that can lend you, but the government can also, with the SBA and many other programs can help you. So inform yourself and then don't be in a rush to buy the first piece of land that you find. Again, study. And as I said earlier, you make your money when you buy it. If you overpay, no matter how good it is, you'll make it, okay, maybe a decent return, but not that great. You need to find opportunities now. People may think that it's high price that you're paying, but if you're going to create value, if you have a game plan for creating value, maybe it's not that high of a price for the right location. So I'm not saying that you need to get a deal every single time that you buy a property. What I'm saying is you need to buy at the right price for what you're trying to do. So you need to have a game plan. You need to understand what's the value creation that you're bringing. And basically do that. You need to have the right model and you need to think it through and have the right capital stack and have the right terms of loans. That's so huge. I mean, having the right terms with the right bank. I would say start with a community bank or start with an SBA loan. That's how I would start in today's world. And look, I started with a small hotel that was $9 million, 2.6 million of capital and the other one of debt. That was my first start. And honestly, I never envisioned to be where I am today. And that was only 20 plus years ago. And If you do things right, you can grow. Now, invest in your people. You're as weak as your weakest link. But the most important thing that you can add is having the right team, the right people. That's one of the things that we're worried all the time. And that's where sometimes I spend my most money, is bringing in the right people to help me grow, having the right partners, the right group. That's huge. I mean, again, you're as weak as your weakest link. So when we've grown, I've always been careful of staffing and creating the right process in place and to be able to continue to grow.
Amazing. Anything else you wish I would have asked that I didn't ask? I forgot to ask, but I mean, you've covered a lot. And again, I'm really appreciative of you spending the time with us today.
No, I mean, look, one of the things that I just started to say is about people. It's all about people, really. Who you surround yourself with, in your investors, in your staff, in your work. I mean, you spend more time at work than at home at times. And so you need to love what you're doing. You need to love the people that you're with. And quite frankly, I love coming to work every day. I have a great staff. And if it wasn't for them, I would have gone crazy a long time ago. I love that I have my son in the company and that I started the company with my wife. I mean, you need to enjoy what you're doing. And I truly do. I love coming to work every day, and there's always going to be a lot of action. But if you have the right staff, they can take a lot of that load out of you. So having this right staff is something that is important. Having the right investors and the right partners is important. And again, it's all about creating that ambience of trust, communication, of relationships, and structuring things the right way. I mean, today we have 4 divisions: the acquisition fund, the development fund, the lending fund, and this company. And we're about to start joining more. I would love to see what this company will be looking like in 10, 20, and 30 years. And to think that it all started in just one little hotel by the airport, a $9 million holiday where I raised $2.6 million, and of those $2.6 million, I put in $250,000. I mean, I sold my house. I sold everything to put that $250,000.
Wow.
So, America, the United States is awesome. I mean, it's truly the land of opportunity. And if you put your heart to it, you can make things happen. But you need to work hard, and you need to have that staying power. And again, surround yourself by the right people.
Amazing. Carlos, your story is amazing. What you've done is amazing. Really, really thankful you've been on today. And I can just tell you with 100% certainty, people listening to this are going to take a lot from it. So again, want to thank you for being on and looking forward to speaking again real soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Dealmaker's Edge. Don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Give us a 5-star rating so more people can follow the conversation.